When I first rode back onto my Uncle Marcus's land, the place looked more like a carcass than a ranch. Fences broken, grass burned down to weeds, windows punched out by wind. The man had died 2 years before, and what he left me was a deed, a pile of debt, and a hollow house that smelled of dust and rot. I thought I was alone. I thought I was walking into silence. Instead, I found her. The kitchen was gray with cobwebs, the stove half-rusted, and there she stood barefoot on the warped planks, dress torn to the thigh and streaked with dirt that looked too dark to be only soil. Her hair, tangled and black, fell into her face as she raised a rusted knife. But she didn't hold it like someone crazed. She held it like someone who had practiced this moment 100 times, steady hands. Sharp eyes. "You're going to have sex with me," she said flatly. I froze. My saddlebag slipped from my hand and hit the floor with a hollow bang that echoed like a gunshot. She didn't flinch. Behind her, in the corner, I saw the bedding she had made canvas sacks folded into a nest, empty tins stacked neatly against. The wall, she had been here a while. This wasn't a squatter's accident. This was a hideout. I should have left. Should have backed out slow, tipped my hat, and told her she could have it all. But something in her eyes, green, watchful, hard, made me pause. Not madness, not despair, calculation. "Why?" I asked. Her voice didn't break. "Because they'll be here any minute. And if they find me alone, they'll kill me. But if they find us together, they'll only laugh and leave. Men always leave once they think they've taken enough. My uncle had died in this house, or so the lawyer told me. A heart attack, alone. Now a stranger lived here, speaking in riddles, daring me to play along with a lie I didn't understand. I stepped closer, hands raised. "Who's coming?" She hesitated, the knife trembling for the first time. Her lips parted, but no answer came. Instead, she lowered her voice to a near whisper. "Men who killed your uncle. Men who think this land still hides what he died protecting. And if you don't play along, you'll be dead before you see the sunset." My chest tightened. I wanted to call her bluff, but she didn't look like a woman who bluffed. I looked around the kitchen at the shadows moving in the cracks of the boarded windows. For the first time I realized silence wasn't silence at all. It was waiting. "I'm Fletcher Knox," I said, my throat dry. "And if what you're saying is true, you'd better tell me what we're standing in the middle of." Her grip tightened on the knife. She gave me a name, quiet but sharp as steel. Tabitha. A beat later, softer, almost like regret. Catherine Cross. She lowered the blade just slightly, and I felt the walls of the ranch house press in on me, heavy with secrets I hadn't asked to inherit. And still I didn't run. Asterisk hoofbeats began as a rumor in the road and thickened into a drum I felt through my boots. Tabitha Catherine moved first. She caught my sleeve and pulled me down the back hall, along a path faintly swept by her nights. Of pacing. At a wall of split pine she tapped a knot with the knife hilt. The sound came back hollow. "Help me," she said. We slid 2 boards aside to reveal a gap no wider than my shoulders. It smelled of old grain and mouse nests. She went in first, turned sideways, tugged me after, and drew the boards shut. Light shrank to hair-thin slivers. Her breath warmed my cheek. Outside horses were reined, metal clinked, and a man with a graveled accent spoke another language before switching to English with a hard edge. Search. Boots hammered the porch. The front door went with one. Kick. Hinges giving up their rust. They came in cursing my uncle's ghost, knocking chairs, yanking drawers. Glass cracked and skittered. In the dark, Tabitha's hand found my forearm and squeezed until my fingers tingled. "Not fair warning. If they find us," she whispered, "you met me in town. I said I'd work your kitchen. You were never upstairs. You never saw the letters." "What letters?" She didn't answer. Even the question made too much noise. Footsteps climbed the stairs. A laugh, the thud of a trunk lid. I'd left a second saddlebag by the stair. A stranger's gear in a dead man's house rang like a bell. Men called to one another. The foreign accented. Voice cut through, precise, amused. Someone came home. Boards groaned above. They were in my uncle's bedroom now, where the ceiling sagged. These were thorough men. One paused where the wall was thinner and rapped the plank inches from my face. The hollow note sang out twice. Tabitha's breath went still. She leaned so close her whisper vibrated my ear. "If they open it, cry out." Like a man surprised in bed, I nearly choked. "That's your plan?" "That's the plan we have time for." A pistol cracked upstairs, a warning to make cowards talk. Dust sifted down my neck. Another voice from the kitchen. "Boss." Satchel by the stairs. Ladies' things. They had her satchel proof she existed. The boss came down. His boots kept. A patient tempo, not hurried, not careless. He walked like he owned the deed and the air. He stopped in the hall outside our hiding place and rapped the panel again, slower. The wood answered like a drumhead. "Open," he said to the wall or the men, I couldn't tell. Silence lengthened. My throat was dessert. I heard my pulse. Somewhere from my spur or a nail in my heel came the softest scrape against wood. He heard it. I could feel him smile without seeing it. The gun's hammer clicked back. Tabitha's fingers tightened, not in panic but in decision. "On 3, she breathed. "There's another way." The first board moved. Asterisk, the panel cracked. As light knifed through, Tabitha shoved me sideways, yanked on a hidden catch, and a sliver of ceiling opened above us. "Climb," she hissed. I planted my boots against the wall and shoved myself upward, boards splintering around my shoulders. She followed close, nimble as a cat despite her bare feet. Below, the boss laughed low, then barked. "Shoot it out." The first volley shredded the panel we'd hidden behind. Wood splinters stung my calves as we scrambled into the crawl space above the rafters. The sound of bullets chewing pine roared in the tight dark, echoing like hammers in my skull. We dragged ourselves forward, belly to beam, toward a square of moonlight. Tabitha pressed on a warped shingle, shoved, and the night opened wide. Cold air struck my face as she pulled herself onto the roof. I followed, lungs heaving, knees raw. From below came shouts, boots clattering on stairs. They knew we were above them now. "Where?" I rasped. "There." She pointed to the barrel below rainwater kept for the dry months. 20 feet down, slick staves bound by rusted iron. It wasn't meant to break a fall. The boss's pistol cracked from a window. A bullet skipped off the shingles near my hand, showering sparks. I nearly lost hold. Tabitha caught my wrist, her grip fierce, steadying me. "You first," she said. I looked at her like she was mad. "You're lighter." "They'll aim for me. Jump." The words tore from me before I thought, "Not without you." Another shot screamed past. We had no time left for pride. I slung myself over the edge, let go, and dropped. The barrel slammed my back and burst with a roar of water. I rolled off gasping. The breath punched from me. Tabitha landed a heartbeat later, hard, but alive. She staggered, then gripped my arm. For the first time her eyes softened. If only a flicker. "You didn't run." We didn't wait for more. Shots cracked overhead, splinters spitting off the trough. Together we bolted for the tree line, soaked, limping, every breath ragged. Behind us, the Boche shouted orders. Dogs bayed, the sound cutting through the night like knives. But for that one stretch of ground between barrel and creek, it was just the two of us strangers bound by one leap, and the promise of more danger than either of us had bargained for. Asterisk. The creek took us in like a grave. Meltwater bit my shins as we slid along gravel under willows. Dogs crashed the bank. Above, baying, Catherine kept a palm on my sleeve and guided us to a pocket where roots nodded and the current slowed. We crouched until only our eyes showed above the black water. "Breathe quiet," she murmured. "Let them think the river swallowed us." I had questions enough to fill a ledger, but the dogs were close and the men closer. "You said they killed my uncle," I whispered. "Say his name." She hesitated then. "Hinrich Weiss." "Your uncle hid letters for me," she said. "Proof. Numbers, shipments, dates, men who took coin to look away. I clerked at the Spanish Spur when Weiss's wagons came crates, marked tools that clinked like iron. He pays border men to mismark. Bills, judges to dismiss charges, ranchers to start fights so he can sell rifles to both sides. When Marcus tried to pull free, his horse threw him. The river hissed around my knees and rinsed the lie clean. I saw the old gelding in my mind, gentle as dusk. "How do you know?" I asked. "I copied the letters," she said. He pressed for my bed. I refused. I ran. Marcus sheltered me. We meant to telegraph the names. He said there wasn't a marshal left here he trusted. A hound slid into the current, snuffling. Catherine eased deeper until the water lifted her hair like dark weed. Her fingers brushed mine once a measure. Not comfort. We drifted with the eddy while the hound lunged past, baffled. "What letters?" I said. "Bills, correspondence. Ledges Weiss's hand when he thought no one dared keep it," she whispered. "And a medallion double-headed eagle. He likes to pretend he answers to something grand." "Foreign," I said. "Profitable." She answered, "Not a man on the bank spat." "They drowned," he called. Boots thudded away. Dogs whined as the trail washed out. Grief worked in me like a splintered board. My uncle hadn't been good in all the ways that count, but once he saw what he'd lent his name to, he tried to turn back. That was enough to make the debt mine. "I'm not running," I said. "He owns the court in San Roque," she said. "Owns the sheriff on both sides. Even if we telegraph, it goes to his pocket. Then we go around him," I said. "Federal marshals ride for paychecks he can't sign." She weighed that, then nodded. "We need the letters back. Without them, we're liars." And with them, he slipped. We edged into the reeds. I hauled onto the mud and helped her after, both of us shivering. Moonlight silvered the cut on her cheek. She turned away, practiced at hiding what men did. "Where?" I asked. "Old way station on the mining road," she said. "He camps there, fire on rock shelves to watch the road. He keeps my letters there because he's vain enough to stare at the rope that'll hang him and call it a necktie." "I'll get them," I said, and the promise felt like a brand, painful, clean, undeniable. "We will," she said. "First, live through tonight." We moved upstream toward the road that climbed to the station, and the men who murdered my uncle over numbers, crates, and the kind of profit that eats a country hollow. Asterisk. By dawn our clothes had dried stiff, reeds, clinging like scars. We sheltered beneath a cottonwood where the creek bent wide, trying to catch breath. Catherine tore a strip from her skirt to bind the scrape on my arm. Her hand shook less than mine. "Weiss won't stop," she said. "He buys silence and silver and fear. Judges, sheriffs, telegraph clerks. You think you'll find a marshal. Who doesn't take his coin? You'll die hunting him." Her words were flat, but her eyes, red-rimmed and sleepless, betrayed the tremor underneath. She had run far enough to believe hope was poisoned. I stared at the cut-boards of the horizon. Pale light bleeding up like smoke. "And we don't run from him, we turn back." Her head snapped toward me. "Into his camp? That's madness. He thinks we're rabbits in brush. Let's be wolves. We go where he sleeps, take back the letters, and drag his name higher. Then his money can reach." She laughed once, brittle. "You don't know how wide it runs." "He's just a spoke. There are others, across territories. Men with different flags but the same hunger. Weiss feeds them guns, so neighbors kill neighbors. The country breaks, and he grows rich." The words settled on me like cold rain. My uncle hadn't just died in greed. He died in a plot to bleed the frontier dry. I should have recoiled, but instead something caught fire in my chest. "All the more reason," I said. "If we bring proof, even Washington will have to look. They can't bury it if we put it straight in the marshal's hands." She shook her head, anger quickening her breath. "You think the marshals are saints? Half of them chase coin, same as Weiss? Then we aim for the ones he hasn't bought. Yet, you said yourself the letters show names, payments, shipments. Enough weight to crush him and whoever stands with him. But first we take them back." The creek swelled with silence. Finally she pulled her knees up and wrapped her arms tight, like a child who hadn't been one in years. "You're a fool, Fletcher Knox, and fools are the only ones left who might tip the scales." She met my gaze, and for the first time, she didn't look like a cornered woman. She looked like someone weighing the cost of belief. "Then it's settled," she said. "We strike the camp. But once we take those letters, there's no turning back. He'll hunt until one of us is a ghost. Then we make sure it's him." We rose, sore and bruised, but a current stronger than fear pulled us upstream. Number. Longer quarry, but conspirators plotting to cut out rot that stretched farther than either of us had guessed. Asterisk. By midday we'd climbed the ridge above the old way station. From the rocks we counted 8 men, rifles toward the road, not the heights. 3 tents, a lean-to, a corral, and a flat shelf where papers lay pinned under stones. Catherine squinted. "He keeps them in sight." Staring at the rope, calling. "It's silk." "We separate," I said. "You pull them to the corral." "I take the shelf," she nodded. "If he aims first, he'll aim at me. He'll want me alive long enough to talk." We watched the pattern. A guard's lazy loop, the cook at the kettle, Weiss on a flat rock, still as if listening to his own tune. I recognized my uncle's hand 30 yards off the sharp tail of an R. It stabbed like a thorn. We slid down into heat. Canvas stink, gun oil stew. At the corral, Catherine flung gravel at a stallion's hocks. The horse lunged, rails popped, men cursed, and grabbed rope. I went for the shelf. The papers tried to take wing. I pinned them and shoved a fistful under my shirt. Names and numbers flashed judges, dates, tonnage, prices in 2 currencies. Under an iron stone lay a rawhide-tied bundle, Marcus's letters. Beneath it, a leather case with a heavy seal, a double-headed bird. I tucked both. "Leave them," a voice said at my ear. Hinrich Weiss stood so near I caught the clean bite of soap. Neat beard, pale eyes, pistol held like certainty. 2 rifles lifted behind him. "You are Marcus's blood," he said, amused. "He had doubts. You have none. It will not help you. You killed him. I ended a confusion," he said softly. He wished to be right again. I let him stop pretending. Rage burned cold. "You sell rifles to both sides and call it order. I supply demand," he said with a small smile. Equilibrium is built from lead. Across the camp, Catherine froze, empty-handed, hair wild, chest heaving. She met my eyes, and without seeming to move her mouth, breathed, "On my count." Weiss didn't look at her. "Give me the letters, and I let you keep your hands. You'll have to take them." He cocked the hammer. "As you wish." Catherine moved first. She kicked the kettle into the fire shelf. Boiling stew sheeted across boots. Men screamed. I slammed into Weiss's wrist. The pistol went off beside my ear, white heat. A rifle cracked wild. A tent pole splintered. Smoke and yells swallowed us. Weiss hit with more weight than his size promised, driving his brow into my cheek. Stars burst. He jammed the muzzle up under my jaw. I felt the letters biting my ribs. "And this," he said. Calm. Catherine rose. Into the sun with a dropped revolver in both hands, sight steady on Weiss. Fear lived in her voice, but iron carried it. "Let him go." He didn't. Sweat slid down his temple. He smiled without heat. "You won't shoot through the man you need." Her eyes never left the black of the muzzle. "No," she said. "I'll shoot you through the eye." A heartbeat stretched thin as leather. Wind moved ash. Somewhere a horse stamped. Weiss began to turn the pistol. I exhaled and shifted to give her an angle and prayed she took it. "3," she whispered. The crack split the world. Weiss stiffened, eyes wide, then toppled like a felled tree. His pistol clattered from my chin to the dirt. Smoke curled from the revolver in Catherine's hands. Her wrists trembling, but her aim still fixed on the space where he'd stood. The camp froze. 2 men broke and ran. Another reached for his rifle. I snatched Weiss's pistol from the ground and fired wild. He dropped screaming. The rest scattered into the brush, curses trailing. Silence followed like a held breath. The fire hissed where the kettle had spilled, and the stallion screamed in the corral. Catherine lowered the revolver slowly, eyes locked on Weiss's body. Blood soaked the rock beneath his temple, pooling into the cracks like ink. I bent, pried his coat open. A leather satchel lay inside, stuffed with folded maps, coded lists, a coiled silver chain, and the heavy medallion embossed with that double-headed eagle. I felt the weight in my palm, and knew this was more than one man's greed. "Is it over?" I asked. Catherine shook her head. "For him, yes. For us, it's only begun. This proves others stand behind him. Men who'll send riders to see what kept him. We don't have long." We gathered what we could, Marcus's letters, Weiss's, lists, the medallion, even his ring stamped with initials not his own. I stuffed them into my saddlebag, every scrap a nail for someone's coffin. By the time we reached the ridge, the sun was low and red. Catherine walked stiff, both hands still shaking. She muttered once, "I told myself I'd never kill." "Not again." "You saved me," I said. She looked at me, raw and brittle. "No, I ended what your uncle began, and now we carry his debt." I couldn't deny it. Below us the camp smoked, empty of its master but heavy with the weight of men who would come. Searching. We'd cut down a tree, but the forest still stood. I touched the letters through the saddlebag, the scratch of Marcus's handwriting against my fingers. He had tried to make amends in the only way he could through paper and ink, left for someone braver. That someone had turned out to be me, though I wasn't sure I deserved it. Catherine watched the valley, as if expecting the world to shift. "What we hold," she said, "can either damn us or save more souls than we'll ever meet. The question is whether we can live long enough to deliver it." "We will," I said, though I wasn't sure if I believed it. "We have to." The last of the light died on Weiss's body. His empire hadn't fallen yet, but its heart had been pierced by one clean shot. from a woman no one was meant to remember. Asterisk, asterisk. We wired Carson from San Roque, sending copies of the lists and Marcus's letters, naming the camp and the double-headed eagle. We stayed put. At dusk the marshals rode in. Stragglers and irons, ledgers and maps in federal bags. From a code book. They spoke the name behind it all, Klaus Richter. Within days the network buckled. Riders and cuffs are gone. We went home. I set posts. Catherine set pains. Nights grief sat with us. Mornings we woke to work and to each other. On the hill we burned Weiss's emblem and buried Marcus's hat. I took her hand. She didn't pull away. We had inherited more than land. We had taken back a future. This is the final part.